Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the USS Dalamis Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dalamis Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek: Preservations.
CEO and the XO headed to Transporter Room 2 to receive guests. You arrive just as they are beaming up. You notice that two are actually being propped up by other science team members. They seem, medically speaking, bad off. And as you arrive, the fourth person begins to collapse, giving the opportunity for either of our two-player characters to effect a save.
Yeah, I would definitely go to catch the falling ensign.
Okay. Your complication range here is going to be 18, 19, 20, but the physical catch is only going to be a difficulty of 2.
All right, and then I'm going to assume it's a fitness security.
Sure.
A 12 and a 4 for 1 success.
He falls. You stop them from bumping their head or anything like that, but you don't catch them before they fall. So you're cradling them on the ground, and you recognize that at this point you need to let go of this suit.
Yeah.
Obviously, I will be calling for medical support at this point, letting Dr. New know we have a medical emergency in the transporter room, obviously heat related. And while Tobor is checking on the individual that's falling, I'm looking at the rest of them. Do any of the others look like they're about to go too?
The science lead does not look like she is ready to fall, and the ensign does not appear to be, but he's got a burden. He is propping up two people who already went out. He drops to his knees and begins to work at getting the helmet off of one of the two people he's with.
I will attempt to assist him in that process.
With the same person, or are you going to do that for the other?
No, I will be trying to basically get the helmets off of the individuals. Helmets first, then we'll worry about the rest.
Okay.
So.
Just removing the helmets is going to likely be more of an engineering task, so whatever attribute you think would work best for that. But what I will also say is, if you were to choose medicine, for example, you could do so in a way that would be helpful in reducing any possible injuries that could occur.
Understood. Yeah, I will be attempting to do that.
All right.
It's not my strong suit, but you know what? And this would be a fitness medicine.
Yep.
Okay, and I got nothing that would help me with that. What's the difficulty?
Difficulty is going to be the same, so it'll be a 2. Complication range, 18, 19, 20.
I'm going to spend, how many momentum do we have?
3.
3. I'm going to spend 1 for this.
Okay.
I only get 1 success.
Okay. No complications?
Correct.
You are unable to remove the helmet at this time. I'm going to roll for the ensign who's attempting on his patient, and he only has 1 success. He's not able to do it. Basically, these suits are so hot that you can't do it. And then the ensign says, oh yeah, let me go ahead and remove my helmet. So the ensign removes his helmet, and you can just see the steam coming out from inside the suit, indicating that the ambient temperature inside the suit is significantly higher than the ambient temperature on board the starship. The suits are struggling.
Speaking as the crewman who's operating the transporter, can he just beam the suits off of them?
Probably, but that could be very challenging. Usually, taking somebody's clothes off is not something that's done with the transporters without undue difficulty.
Unless you're Ferengi?
Yeah. So it could be done and calibrated to do so. It just wasn't in this case.
Then he will ask the captain if that's what he wants to do.
I'm like, let's not risk it. Let's just get them to sick bay. And Dr. New, once the suits cool down, should be able to remove them pretty quickly.
The lieutenant commander Obaye removes her helmet and she says, "We got to get him out of there. Can we please try again? Maybe if we work together."
So actually, Lee, so I know I only got one success.
Yep.
Can I succeed with a cost, and the cost being that I've burnt myself and have a complication injury?
Yes.
She'll be saying that, and there's literally the like singeing sound of pressing flesh on a grill as I unlatch the helmet and pull it off and throw it aside.
You successfully remove the helmet. She takes that opportunity to start supplying rescue breaths. Dr. New's team arrives. They're able to have appropriate safety gear to be able to remove the helmets and such. And they get the impacted folks on their way to sickbay. Dr. New calls for an emergency beam out for the one who you had burned yourself to help.
Let's get them back up on the transporter pad. To the beam to sickbay, Chief.
Right, sir?
All right. The emergent patient is beamed away. The other patients are whisked away on little super cool floating Star Trek gurneys, leaving you with the lead scientist, Lieutenant Commander Aisha Mabaye, and her ensign.
Commander, it looks like we have a lot to discuss and not much time to do so. As I stand back up, my uniform singed and like steaming.
The ensign will pull out the emergency first aid kit for the captain.
I wave him off with like a closed hand.
Baye takes the emergency kit and she says, "You're no good to anyone, sir. If you are injured, allow us to assist."
Let's walk and talk, and we'll take care of it in the conference room.
Okay. Adam, anything else you
will-
want to do in this scene?
Yes, as they leave, I'm going to look at the transporter chief and let her know to, as quickly as she can, arrange for extra coolant packs to be sent down to the remaining member of their team.
Aye, sir. I'll get up with the quartermaster now.
And as I follow the captain, I will contact the bridge and make sure that they're keeping an open comm link with the remaining individual.
Aye, sir. As you leave and the door closes, we go directly to getting with the quartermaster and getting all that gear and stuff. I'm going to let you make that roll on behalf of the engineering team.
Okay.
Adam, you can roll for the ship. Dave, you can roll for the engineering crew in this case.
Okay. Should I use Tenari stats or?
It's the standard crew based on your ship quality, I think it is.
So ship quality is technically a NPC thing, but default supporting crew, like their best focused one is a attribute of 10 and a department of 4, so 14, which corresponds to between talented and exceptional.
So call it a 14 as the target.
All right. So 2 dice.
Yep.
And what's the difficulty on this?
Difficulties because of the time constraint. It's a 2. It's a fairly mundane task, but it's a time constraint issue. The goal is to get everything in place rapidly because this is a rapid situation.
Am I allowed to spend momentum on this for the NPCs?
That's up to you and the crew.
Okay. Then I'll spend 1 for an extra dice.
Okay, leaves us with 1 momentum, and we are at 9 threat.
15, 13, 4. So that's 2 successes.
You have succeeded. There are extra coolant packs sent, and you were sending that down to the planet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they are set up.
The ship rolled a 14 on the nose.
Excellent. So that's 1 momentum that you would get. Thalor responds, "Thank you, Dilemma's Christian. Please offer my apologies to your captain. I spoke out of turn and that was disrespectful."
It's understandable. We'll keep a channel open. If you need anything more from us, let us know.
Any help you can provide with getting ahead of the calculations would be very helpful.
Understood. We'll put you in contact with our science department,
Thank you.
and the chief will hook them through to the science department.
All right. So with that, the scene will close. So with that act closing, we lose one momentum. So we are 1 and 9. I'm going to let you know about a little mechanical thing that's going to be happening with this adventure. The heat, as you may have guessed, is extreme. So extreme that anything planet side, at least at this stage, has a difficulty of 2 attached to it. Basically, it's a trait. It's OP heat. 2 is the trait in place for anything planet side at this point. OP standing for oppressive. If you are in an EV suit, that reduces that oppressive heat by a factor of 1. And even if you were, for some reason or through roles or traits and what have you, able to reduce that OP heat factor to 0, the default 0 condition is that it is so warm inside an EV suit that it is uncomfortable for even a Vulcan. By definition, Andorians are operating at an automated OP1. They cannot reduce below that. It is always that hot, where it makes it challenging for Andorians to operate.
So the Andorian species trait is making it +1,
Correct.
whereas Vulcans reduce it by 1.
Correct.
Just for the listeners out there on how species traits can come into play.
Yep. So as we open the second act, we are in the conference room. While you're talking, the scientific lead will be assisting with attending to the medical needs of Captain Tobor. And we have Lieutenant J.G. Thalor Tavashti on the surface side, who's being connected on open comms with Lieutenant Nilan. And he has requested some assistance with staying ahead of the rapidly changing proto matrix with some sensor readings, basically leading sensor readings. The request is if you can create a probability protocol for the nature, speed, and type of changes, that will assist him in making calculations, which will hopefully extend the time that they have with the resources that they're using.
Do it.
Excellent. So this particular challenge is, of course, going to be a 3 because there's a lot of unknown variables here. It will also have a complication range of 18, 19, and 20 because missteps and miscalculations make the actual process that the other lieutenant is doing harder. And the ship, of course, will be able to assist you.
May I assist?
You may.
I also feel like perhaps this might be bold because we're high stress, high risk, kind of working under pressure.
I would absolutely agree with this. You are quite literally in a pressure cooker. Yeah.
So I want to buy a die with threat for this bold science.
I do like that, and I think I should be fair as opposed to springing it on you later. I'm going to increase the complication range by 2. That leaves us with 6 threat, 1 momentum. And we're going to buy any additional die beyond the first one, Lacey?
It'll be the ship and also Tanari's helping. Is that right?
That is correct.
And I need 3 successes.
Yep.
And I bought 1 die. I think that we can do it with what we have.
Okay.
I'm looking around the crew to see if anyone has scared eyes. All right.
There's no fear on this ship. This is the Delamas Christian.
Okay, so I rolled a 6, an 8, and 14, and this is a science reason, is that right?
Science, reason, or science insight.
Okay, so that's 3 successes.
Excellent. So you have hit the mark. Tanari, would you care to make your assistance roll?
Since we're doing this in a hurry, could I use daring engineering?
Absolutely.
All right. That is a 9.
All right, success. So that's 1 momentum so far. And Joe, would you roll for the DC?
All right. I think we're using sensors science,
That would be correct.
which is a 13. And I get a 4, which is not a critical, but a single success.
Got it. So that is 2 momentum over the top. You are able to get ahead of the process. Thalor says, "Thank you, Dilemma's Christian. You have taken some of the pressure off." And he continues his work. Your comms are audio, but did you wish to turn on any kind of visual?
We're in the conference room, so we can have them up on the screen if it's helpful.
Yeah, no, the instructions for the open communication was also to make sure that they're still conscious. Like they're down there by themselves. If they go down, there's nobody there.
Ah, so you definitely would have visual because if he passes out, you want to make sure that
Yes.
he's good to go. Gotcha. All right, so yeah, you've got the visual. You can see that he is in a bad way. He's like struggling. You do also notice that Thalor is very physically fit, just a big and imposing physical figure. Long, stark white hair, exceptionally bright blue eyes, slightly paler blue complexion. Not a young looking person, but not an older looking person, but definitely determined. Like there's focus in their eyes. You can see that he's frantically making calculations. And Lieutenant Elon, you notice that since your work has been completed and got him that information, he's been able to slow down, catch a slight breath, and that has allowed him to take advantage of those cooling packs that were there. That he makes a hot swap on 2 cooling packs for his suit, that there is some kind of relief that comes over his face. But looking at the packs that he ejected, it is very clear that he has been operating without viable cooling packs for some time, probably at least an hour or more since you got there. He's basically been fighting through this to do the job.
Hopefully this also makes it less likely that he makes any mistakes. Just feel free to lower that complication range for him.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do about that. What you did is you made it so he has an operational suit where he didn't before. So what he was operating did improve by 1 because now his suit is actually functioning.
Tellarites are hardy folk, aren't they?
They are. They're not as temperature sensitive. The Tellarite comment was made more because their endurance is so strong that temperatures of this extreme for any length of time is not only a can you deal with the temperature, is your body boiling, but it is also an endurance issue. Can you withstand these temperatures for a lengthy period of time?
So I'm going to connect with Ensign Gurko, who's our Tellarite particle physicist and metallurgist, and have him get suited up, briefed, and head down to the planet to help Pilar, since I don't have any Vulcan scientists.
I think it's more that the Tellarites, not that they can tolerate more heat, is that when they complain, who can tell the difference?
True.
Is it art imitating life or just them whining about it? Affirmative, sir. And they begin getting ready to do that. They should be there partway through the scene. But essentially, that's going well. You're in the conference room and you're being tended to by.
My yeoman.
No, the science leader is actually tending to you.
Or Nurse Kellen. Or are they in sick bay with the 3 crew?
They're in sick bay. They're handling the emergent cases, which is why Aisha is assisting you.
Got it.
So she is applying first aid.
So if we want to do this by the book, since this is our first attempt at removing an injury, we can walk through that process.
I would like to. What page is that?
Injury start on page 290, and recovery and healing goes on to 292. Longer term healing can't be done in combat. Injured characters require medical treatment to remove the injury completely. This treatment is normally a control plus medicine with a difficulty of X and takes X hours, where X is the severity in both cases. Add 1 to the difficulty and complication range if the injury was not treated during combat. This difficulty may be modified further by circumstances. Attempting to heal a severe disruptor burn in a damp cave with basic medkit is much harder than doing the same thing in a well-stocked sickbay.
So a couple things. There wasn't combat, but we are doing it after the fact. So that's going to increase us by 1. It was only an injury of 1, so that's 2. You have a med kit, but you're not in the absolute best scenario, but you're not in a bad scenario. I'll call that a wash. So we're talking difficulty of 2. She
Right.
is going to spend 1 of her personal momentum to be able to assist you. So she's got 3 die. Damn, she's good. So that is 5 successes.
Nice.
Wait, I see your injury, and I raise you. You ain't got stuff to worry about.
She's been treating these burns for months. She's a pro with a dermal regenerator.
I don't recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, though, NPCs get a personal threat pool. This is not an adversary. They wouldn't necessarily be beholden to the max of 6 if it was an adversary, but they're not an adversary. I don't know how to rule that. Interesting conundrum.
Yeah, I don't really know how you treat allies. I think, no, and allies can add to the player pool.
Okay. So I will top her off, which she only spent 1, which leaves 4. She's adding to the player pool. So she basically gets you up to 6.
All right. And while we're doing that, we're talking like
Yep.
back and forth. Brief us on what's going on.
She confirms the details that you had through your searches, basically everything that you heard in the report. She adds a little nuance. She gives you the specific date of the first notice of the anomalies. Then she lets you know when the pattern of the cycle of things starting to break down occurred, which was shortly thereafter. She gives you all that pertinent information. And she does say that the team was working on trying to localize it. When they find out the exact spot, they determined that it had to be coming from a specific location. The team was close to narrowing that down, but they lost track of that signal. And that's where they are. They would have tried to find a way to just get off the planet at this point, but she felt it was critical to know what was causing it. If it can do this to this planet, while it could take longer or whatever, there is the potential that it could do that to other planets or destabilize other things. And she felt it was critical to know what was causing it.
Absolutely. I let her know that we've vectored our runabout with the advanced sensor system to the caldera where they were investigating. So we're going to try and pick up where they left off in localizing the sources. And I think now that we're here, I think, Commander, you and I, we should relocate to stellar cartography on deck 4 and set up shop there and feed all the sensor data into this so we can try and locate the anomaly and locate your people on the planet. I've got my rescue shuttle as well on standby to deploy to effectuate a rescue if and when we locate your people.
I think we need, there's something else that didn't get in the reports because I wasn't sure if it was a good idea to put it there. That's not accurate. Over the last few years, when on various projects and missions, certain things that I've come across have been flagged and or redacted by various entities at Starfleet, specifically Starfleet Intelligence.
Ocean looks pained.
I look over at Ocean.
There's a this again look on his face.
I'm a scientist. I don't trust when things happen often and frequently and typically in a very specified range. These anomaly readings hit that range. The official reports are off by critical factors. And she reaches into a pocket in her uniform and she takes out a piece of paper and she says,
Old school.
This code accesses my personal logs. If you feel it's necessary, this is the only way you'll get the actual sensor frequencies, telemetry, and specific data.
I gesture to the LCAR's table, the conference room, like the floating keyboard input display that like pops
Yep.
up. And I like, by all means, Commander, please.
She types in her code, she accesses the data, and purple lighting hits. Epsilon protocol engaged. She looks around. She's kind of scared. She's done that freeze up mode. And on a display that only your bridge crew can see, the DC has typed a message that basically says, this is a person who does not have security clearance in the room. How would you like me to proceed?
Lieutenant Nealon, would you please take the commander down to stellar cartography and begin setting up to run the necessary scans and calculations?
Yes, of course, Captain.
Commander, if you'll excuse us.
She looks puzzled, but she does comply. I'm going to shift with the commander and Lieutenant Nealon as they are leaving, and then I'll come back to the room. As the door to the conference room shuts, you go out into the bridge area and then you exit the bridge. As soon as you're in the turbo lift headed to stellar cartography, as you're going down, she looks at you and she says, I don't have authorization on your ship. Can you stop this turbo lift, please?
I will stop it.
And she says, if you can't tell me what all that was, I get it. But at least do me the courtesy of letting me know, did I just hand the information over to the people I was trying to hide it from? Or did I hand it to the people who might be able to help?
I believe you're in good hands, and I say that with all my heart.
We have a saying in my family, trust is earned, sincerity is ever present. I will trust you. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, you continue towards stellar cartography. We go back to the conference room. The door is closed.
All right, DC, what do you got for us?
The signature she has provided to you is anomalies consistent with the subspace weapon engaged by the flotilla that attacked Aslan Station a mere 4 months ago.
I was just wondering if that was going to turn out to be the case.
How would
Any
you like to
particular
proceed,
reason
sir?
you engaged the Epsilon protocol beyond that?
It was an automated function. I was actually more focused on figuring out how best to play a new game.
Can you give the, what did we say? It was the subspace frequency
Yes.
matched the weapons at Battle of Aslan Station. All right, Mr. Tenari, that changes a little bit of the nature of our investigation. Everything you've got on the subspace weaponry you have from Braga's research and everything, run it through with this and see what that is. Mr. Chisilrer, would you please do your thing and figure out who is redacting information on this in Starfleet Intelligence? I'm going to take a look at the sensor data we have here and nearby and see the timing on this and see if we can't find a ship or something that utilized the weapon on the planet, that because they didn't know what they were looking for, they chalked it up to anomalous data in their sensor readings here.
Question. The sensor data we just received, how is it in terms of scale with the weapons that were used at the siege of Aslan Station?
It is consistent with the size of each of the weapons. They were very uniform in their size based on my scans. We were fortunate in that Elon was so adept at her job as to provide me with a plethora of useful information.
Now, Lee, just
So-
remind me, none of the big ships that had the weapons actually escaped, right?
One
It
of
was
them did.
the Talarian one? Okay.
So this is not larger in any way than those weapons. It is consistent scale with the wave motion gun of those ship weapons.
More specifically, Lieutenant Commander, congratulations on your protocol. You've avoided talking with me since your recent promotion. Really a shame. I'd like to have thrown you a party, perhaps even played a game with you.
Thank you, Delamas Christian.
You're very welcome, sir. It is actually consistent with the exact weapon. It is not a weapon that has been fired or in use. It's actually the field that surrounds the weapon as long as it is powered. Essentially, it seems to be decaying. The weapon's about to die. It seems to be taking this planet with it.
You're saying the actual weapon is on the surface? Not that it was fired?
I don't think it's on the surface based on the readings, but I would need more detailed information to confirm that.
You're saying the weapon is here, it wasn't fired?
Correct.
Let's find it.
Yes.
So I'll work with Arvik and we'll start scanning for the weapon.
Sir, with that in
And-
mind, I think we should probably get the tank Abbott ready as opposed to the rescue shuttle.
Again, the Tank Abbott's not going to help us against this. There's nothing that the Tank Abbott can add that the Christian itself can't handle if we're on a one-on-one conflict with this. I think it's more important to figure out how to stabilize the matrix of this planet. And that's what I need you working on. For lack of a better word, reverse engineering this subspace anomaly, figure out why it's disrupting the planet's matrix and stop it if possible, reverse it if you can.
All right, I'll do what I can. I've been studying some of Bragoff's works.
Loop Nealon in when you need her.
In reference to our honored guest, Captain, do you wish me to engage protocols to make sure they are not able to hear or learn any sensitive information?
I think we can stand down from Epsilon protocol itself, but let's keep her calm and communication. Let's give her standard but limited access in order to do her work, but monitor her closely, please.
And would you prefer, I'm trying to find a nice term to say it. I had toyed around with a few terms, but I'm fairly confident that you would prefer it not to be referred to as sanitation protocols. But essentially, I've set up a series of parameters for how I can limit epsilon information for non-cleared personnel, starting at its lowest levels with noise distractions, moving into noise and light distractions, and at its second to highest setting, stun. And of course, there is a final version, which, thanks to the great work of my dear friends, Lieutenant Commander Tenari and Lieutenant Elon, I have the ability to directly, as opposed to deck wide, I can certainly take care of any issues that arise. I guess I'm asking, which level of protection would you like me to engage given the situation?
Given this fact that there aren't any actual Epsilon creatures aboard ship, I think we can hold off on any doomsday protocols.
That seems very ominous. I'm not an ominous person by nature, but maybe we could say a one?
Yes, let's go with the one.
Thank you, sir. Then with that, the Epsilon protocol is dropped. The lighting changes and the conference room reverts to normal.
All right.
So clarification, where we were talking about things being redacted, that was her doing the redacting.
So she was saying that previous missions outside of this, like things she's been doing over the last few years, whenever she's come across this particular setup, somebody has redacted that information. So recently, she has stopped putting that in all of her reports while she's doing her details. It does appear in some of her papers because that's the science stuff. The report that goes to command will not include that data. She actually alters it in a very slight way, so it's not specifically the same, but that particular distortion field has a specific frequency designation number to it. It is identifiable. That's why eventually you're able to get sensors to search for it and do all these other things, scan for it, shield from it, all of that. So there is that. She's telling you that whenever she has seen that or has seen that in a report, it always gets redacted. So she just stopped putting it in reports so that her reports went clean without redaction.
Can I get a copy of this data we've got here from her for my murder board?
You can.
Okay.
So yes, Mr. Chazilwer, I want you to track down who's been redacting her reports on the Starfleet Intelligence side of things.
From what you're describing, this strikes me as it's not being redacted by anybody externally. It's being redacted by somebody local because it's the local logs that are being changed, correct?
She submits reports that say, I found such and such, and then they get redacted.
When she gets them back or when somebody goes to read them, what she has put in has been redacted.
Okay. But they are being sent off planet.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted the clarification.
And this has been
Basically,
happening for years in the stuff she's been working on.
Yeah.
So I want to figure out what she's been working on tangentially that is leading to Bragoff and the subspace weapon device. And maybe we can pick up a thread that we can use to trail back to Bragoff and his organization and pull the rug out from underneath them.
Adam, if you want to, I'm going to call this a 3, but it does have a high complication range. And the reason is you're dealing with things that can, basically, this is the kind of search that can trigger eyes. That's
Mhm.
really what the complication is. If you get the complication, it won't change the outcome of your roll. What it does is it tells you that it's basically you were flagged, and then we'll deal with what that flagged results in down the road. The complication is actually going to be 16 through 20, very high complication range. The difficulty in kind of sorting through her record, which is fairly free, but pulling the thread is where the challenge comes in. So that's why we're talking 3 with that large complication range.
Okay. I would like our friend DC to assist with me on this. Is that something
I'd
that,
be happy to help you with that.
okay?
Thank you, sir. For those of you who have not been with us in a while, and it hasn't really come up specifically in a while, when the Epsilon protocol became a sentient entity, I had decided to build this character instead of using the standard STA rules. I chose to use the Sentience 2D20 rules as written by Al Spader, frequent writer and project lead on one of Modavis's 1E books, the Federation Klingon War campaign book. But Al has done a great job with Sentience 2D20. In fact, it just had a fantastically successful recent Kickstarter. Things are moving along. And even on the show, we're going to be talking about that in the near future. We actually just received a review copy of that particular book. This was built with the older rules, so I'll be adjusting this in the future based on any rules changes that may have happened in the new book. But as of right now, we'll go with what we had. Because of that, the DC is built with different sets of stats. So as opposed to abilities and departments, sentient computers have emotions and protocols. They are largely very similar things, but the DC operates on his emotions as the base ability that he's engaging with, and his protocols are the things that he's good at doing at their various levels. So in this case, when the DC assists, because he said he was very happy, he will be assisting with joy, and we are analyzing. So it'll be joy in analyzing. In that case, he has a 10 as a target number. And as far as what Star Trek refers to as focuses, he has programs that include data analysis.
All right. So this would be a toss-up as to whether or not it would be security and control or security and insight. And I'm leaning towards control because it's a matter of trying to be precise. Most of this is about staying hidden. So it's almost like a net space stealth check kind of thing.
Yep.
And I am being cautious with it. So I'm going to spend a point of momentum to get an extra die.
All right.
And as I mentioned, this kind of ticked Ocean off a little bit. So I'm going to leverage one of my values, which is that membership in Starfleet does not ensure honor. And I'm going to do that so that I can spend my point of determination.
Okay.
All right.
And what are you using the determination for?
I'm going to use the point of determination for the to
Perfect
re-roll.
opportunity.
Yeah, to re-roll the. Oh, I can do it either way.
You don't have to do that unless you need to make the roll.
Okay, got it. That would be 3, but I'm going to re-roll the high one.
Did you buy extra die with caution?
Yes, I did. I brought up a die with the momentum.
Okay.
So let's see. I wanted to spend the determination to get the natural 1.
No, so the way it works in second edition, you roll all 3 dice, and
Yep.
then you turn 1 into a 1.
All right. So if that's the case, then I got 4 successes.
Ooh, okay. So 4 successes. DC will roll the assist. He is not able to help. And the ship would assist. Lacey, if you'd be kind enough to roll, that would be a computer's security.
I rolled a 7, which I assume is a success, but I don't have a character sheet in front of me.
The base stat is like a 10. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. So that is 5 successes out of 3, which is 2 momentum. That pops you up to 6 with 1 extra.
Okay.
Allow me to give you the base information. You were able to tell that Starfleet Intelligence has been doing the redacting, and it has gone back because of the way the question and the issue was phrased. She's been working on various projects where this has happened over the last 2 or 3 years. maybe a little bit longer, but she apparently didn't notice it until about a year after it had begun. And generally speaking, the redaction is as simple as the frequencies are there. It's only been more recently that more information has been done. Because you are all in hyper paranoid mode, you will be able to peg that date to when they have been doing much more scrutinizing of this issue following your interactions on Saltac 4 and the pursuit of the Ebony Knox investigation. Basically, when the DC got involved and ran into Januk, that's when Starfleet Intelligence started paying attention to these issues quadrant wide. Whatever they were doing prior to that was fairly localized to specific areas, but now it is a wide net. And you have
So-
the ability to make a momentum spend.
Yep. Yeah. So just to clarify, her stuff has been getting redacted for 2 to 3 years. It started with just the subspace readings, and now it's become more stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
And I should have had it as a specific type of redaction. Basically, up until the Celtic 4 time frame, it was redacted to anybody outside of people who needed to see the real report. Basically, if you needed the information, it allowed it. If you didn't need the information, it blocked that piece out, but people wouldn't notice it. It like by redacting, it just said we found a frequency, it didn't provide that frequency. It basically, it's not like things were blacked out. It basically edited the text.
Got it. Okay.
Now it is doing a lot more of the traditional blacking out. It's literally saying, this is classified information. Please contact Starfleet Intelligence with the following code if you're requesting permission to view the material.
And that's how it's being redacted. I thought the information was being adjusted.
Well, it was originally being adjusted. Now it's being blocked out, and they're asking people to communicate with them if they want to see it.
Okay.
And that took place after Soltec 4. That was when what they were doing changed. That's when she noticed it, and it took her a little while to figure out what to do with that. So she stopped putting it in to avoid any changes to her work.
Okay. So digging for more information on that, I would like to see, is it possible to determine, and I don't know what the appropriate qualifier for this, whether it's a who or how, but who or how is it being redacted? Is it being redacted by a specific office or somebody, something that I don't want to say could be identified because it's intelligence, so therefore they work against that, but the method or agency that is doing it within Starfleet Intelligence.
Oh, one last thing, part of the general information. Her science projects have been all over the place. No specific thread ties any of her projects together with any of this. So it's almost like what she's working on is separate. It's just if there happens to be this thing in that thing, it got tagged. So there are some things she did where nothing ever happened from it whatsoever. But any assignment where subspace shootings were involved, if this frequency came up, then she had that issue. She just happened to notice it.
So it wasn't necessarily just this assignment. She's worked on other things that has had things redacted.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, to your question, as a momentum spend, yes, you can determine. You don't even have to ask me whether it's a who or a what. With the momentum spend, I would give you that information. So with that momentum spend, what you know is it is definitely a what/who. Basically, a computer program has been created, included into a standard Starfleet security patch upload, and every ship that has had this patch upload has this protocol. The only reason why the DC doesn't is you all made specific steps to not let anything that Chinook was doing do it. Basically, if a ship went through that station, it got that patch. Anytime it connected with another station, that station got that patch. Any ship that entered that station then got that patch, and it's been replicating within the fleet.
So this will be a good opportunity, Lee. How much momentum will it cost us to finally put the who is Janok working for in Starfleet? Who is the one who shielded him? Who is the one he was confident enough that this will all be sorted out when our bosses talk to each other?
There is not enough momentum that you were allowed to earn to do that, but you have several different investigations that are ongoing, a la season-long extended tasks, and at least two of them lead towards that end. So what I would say to you is there's a gated series of extended challenges to get to that point. And you're actually already engaged in them and have been since Celtec 4.
Beautiful.
That is the core mystery. Who hired Ebony Knox? You have that answer, you know who Janok was working for.
Got it.
And so you understand that bit, what the time frame has been when it amped up, and you know that this net has been expanded. Anything else you want to do regarding that part of the investigation at this time, or
So, with another momentum spend, can we discern from the lieutenant commander's redacted reports if these were like, for lack of a better word, footprints of where one or more of these subspace weapons had been? And like that's what she detected?
so I will let you spend 2 momentum to get that because there's 2 parts to that
So
question.
let's just make sure that we're on the same page on that one. I'm interested in finding out whether or not it is like, do we have enough information already to determine the criteria of the patch, or if we were to be able to connect with another ship, we could potentially extract it from that. And as a matter of fact, the ship that is on the planet probably had that patch.
It absolutely does.
Yes. So we can probably get that patch and be prepared to quarantine it and pull it apart.
You
Well,
absolutely can.
sure.
Yes.
My secondary question is, so the lieutenant commander for the last few years has been detecting these readings in random spots. And I want to know where those random spots are and if it looks like the Talarian ship with the subspace weapon flew by here and this subspace weapon is leaving like tire tracks, for lack of a better word, in subspace.
So she's been on various missions, and she has apparently quite randomly been in 2 areas where your various missions and mysteries have connected. Specifically, she was part of a science conference, Saltec 4, and came across this and one of like basically sensor logs and things like that. She was doing some things, did some reporting. You didn't realize this, but she was also one of the scientists at that big conference that started this whole thing 3 years ago. So she was one of the ones in attendance there. But those 2 things and this are really the only issues that came up, other than she was temporarily assigned at a medical facility where the former prisoners from that breeding facilities were located. And so some of the just her ships and her department's normal work just happened to pick up those signals. You now know where that was. So she just happened to be around when those things happened. It just happened to get tagged and redacted.
All right. I will talk to her later about that first conference, going the Wayback Machine. But let's see if we can't find the weapon and locate the physical object that's
Okay.
causing the issue.
All right. The probes are in place. Open communication continues with the primary station. And you've got the Eagle in position relaying information. So at this point, Lacey and Dave, what do you consider your primary target? Are you trying to locate the other team, or are you trying to locate the weapon?